Hey, welcome back, watch fans. We're going to be talking about what I believe could be one of the most undervalued Rolex watches with the opportunity to appreciate for upside. Now, I'm here at the corner of Elvis Presley Boulevard, right across from actually some very interesting landmarks here in sunny Las Vegas. This was the old Hilton. That's where Elvis performed in the late 60s. I think it was in the 60s or 70s. And here was a gas station where Steve Wynn's daughter, who was kidnapped. I think this is where they exchanged the money. I think it was right here. Of course, we had the old, this was the old Riviera over here, which is now the convention center. And when I first stayed in Vegas, that's where I stayed, the Riviera. I think that was 1998, 1999. Fascinating. Anyway, so this watch dates back from, now this model is 72. You see the champagne dial, two-tone, again on the strap. Again, much better on a suede strap, a little more modern looking. Yeah, so this watch actually dates back from the era of when Elvis was here. Now, Elvis was actually a watch collector. The question is, did Elvis own a Turnograph? Did Elvis own one of these Turnographs? Now, what's fascinating is I bet he did. I am confident that this was the Elvis watch. Now, the beautiful thing is, obviously, it's got the timing function, the rotating bezel, the bezel rotates. Now, when you're an entertainer, time is money, right? You got to know when to get on stage, off stage. Timing is very important in your career. So I'm sure he had one of these, because here's the other thing. This was actually, I believe, the first and only Rolex watch used by the military. And I know all you cosplay military guys, all you weekend, the guys who dress up in the fatigues and the what is it called, the tactical gear, the tactical gear bros, with your EDC, your everyday carry. You do your videos with, showing that, you got a pocket knife and you got your cell phone and keys. What else do you have in your EDC kit? What are you, 12 years old? Come on. Now, again, when I was 12, I probably thought that would have been a cool thing. It's fascinating, but, I guess tastes change. You get more mature, but, yeah, I'm sure Elvis had one of these. Now, again, this was the first Rolex military watch. It was used by the Air Force Thunderbirds. That's right, the U.S. Air Force. That's, again, you're talking about late 50s. That was when the U.S. was at the height of its absolute military hegemony. Really, the U.S. was striding the top of the world. And I think nothing represented that better than the Thunderbirds, the U.S. Air Force. This was, these guys were on top of the world, literally, figuratively. And they wore this watch. That's right, the Thunderbirds. In case some of you knuckleheads don't know, that's like the, kind of the, I guess maybe the elite Air Force squadron. They use it for air shows. They don't, it's just like guys who do cool tricks for air shows or whatever. So this watch was originally called the Thunderbird. Turnograph or Thunderbird, I don't even know. In one of our reviews on the channel, we actually show one of these watches from the 50s, which has the Thunderbird logo on the face. I believe it's a all steel model. These watches came in gold. Now I have another, I do have a solid gold model. I have the head only, on a suede strap. I have it in one of the videos. Actually, I had an opportunity to buy the bracelet, as like a Jubilee bracelet, but it's like, I don't really wear these bracelets, the gold. It's like too much, it's like too heavy. It's like too, they get jingly jangly. Although that bracelet was crisp. I think the guy was asking it might have been 8-10 grand. I don't know. It's a lot of money for something I probably wouldn't wear. Now, the great thing about this watch, let me kind of get into details. I get a little bit off topic here. So let me get back onto topic. Okay, here is my thesis. Here is my thesis for what makes the Turnograph a great buy. Okay, so yeah, you have the story, the history. I mean, this is the Elvis watch, right? It was used by the Thunderbirds. I'm sure Elvis owned one of these, or he gave them as gifts. This was the cool watch. This was the first rotating bezel, and this was the one that got everything going. So historically, it's very important. It occupies an important place in history. And, look, I did a video, I talked about art. When you're talking about art, the artists who become valuable, okay, we're talking about, maybe even guys you never heard of. Not, there could be whatever it is. It's the guys who become valuable are those who have historical importance, okay? They don't have to be, beautiful images or whatever. It's got to be historically important. It means the guy did something, he innovated something, and I don't know. Like, for example, I talked about an example of a Hungarian Fauvist painter. I forgot his name. His name was something. It's one of these Hungarian goulash type of names. I already forgot it. But look, 99.9% of the people who know about art never heard of this guy. But he was an important Hungarian Fauvist painter, and that is very important for people in Hungary. Believe it or not, people in Hungary do have money, and a painting like that could sell for, $300 grand at auction. $300 grand, that's real money. It's one of these things you might be able to find at a flea market or a Goodwill store. I mean, this happens all the time. These oddball things, right? I never got that lucky. I mean, I always had to kind of pay a little money for these things. I'll give you another example. Manusher Yektai. Okay, it's an Iranian artist. Why is he important? Well, he was an Iranian who came to the U.S. in the late 1940s. He was part of the New York School of Abstract Expressionists. So very early on, that was part of Jackson Pollock, all those dudes. But he was the youngest guy. And he also, very importantly, he studied in Paris, I believe in the late 40s. So he studied in Paris, came to New York. So he was part of, so you got those things going, right? You got the French connection, New York school. So you got so historically important Iranian, which is important. There are, believe it or not, a lot of Iranians out there who have money. Now, interestingly, I was buying these paintings for, I don't know, this is going back 10 years ago, for a couple of grand. Okay. And I knew the guy was important. I knew, he did some very incredible work in the 50s, 40s, 50s. That's his historic important period. The stuff I was buying was stuff from the 70s, which is not that important. But, I was paying a couple of grand for these paintings. I was selling them for, 10 grand. I was making maybe, 5-10 times my money. I know it sounds impressive. But the thing is, I knew that this guy was going to go up in price. I knew he was going to go up in price because he was historically important. And sure enough, some of those paintings today are selling for 50, 100 grand. So if I held them, I would have been, I would have been able to make, 50 grand instead of 10 grand, right? So something I bought for 2 grand, I could be selling for, 50 grand today. But listen, the problem with these things, the problem with watches, art, stuff, the problem with stuff is you can't eat it. You got to pay your bills, right? You got to pay your bills, and you got to sell these things. You got to keep moving, even if you know if it's going up. That's the sad thing. It's not like a stock that you can hold that pays dividends. These things don't pay dividends, my friends. It's that's why technically, watches are not really a great investment. It's just an asset. It's like gold, right? It's just, something you do want to have a little bit of, maybe 5% of your portfolio if you know what you're doing. But back to the historically important. So I mentioned to you historically important and how that matters. Now, in the case of Rolex, why are people into the Daytona? They're into the Daytona because they think, it's historically important. Paul Newman. Who the fuck is Paul Newman? I mean, I don't think anybody today, any millennials know, well, I don't know. Gen Z, I don't know who he is. I mean, I don't even barely know who he is. He had a couple of good movies back in the 80s. But I don't know, like, the stuff in the 50s or the 60s. I mean, like, the guy is a great actor. I mean, look, great guy. I'm sure. But I don't think he's going to be that relevant in 20 years. I mean, but the Daytona is important because people say, oh, it's the racing watch, it's this, it's that, Paul Newman, blah, blah, blah. Oh, the Submariner, oh, it's a dive watch. It was used by Jacques Cousteau. Whatever. Some bullshit. But what, do you see the pattern here? They're all talking about, the value of the watch all goes back to this historical bullshit importance. Now, Turnograph, historically important. First Rolex bezel, rotating bezel. This is the thing that started everything. This is the thing that started the Submariner, the GMT, the sports watch. That's right. This is the first real sports watch, and it's got the military thing. Thunderbirds. It doesn't get better. You don't get better provenance than the Thunderbirds. Okay, this is not like the Pakistani Air Force or something. Okay, it's the U.S. fucking A. Okay, America. All right, we're talking about world domination, 1950s. That is historically important. I was at the Miami Beach show, and it was one of these guys, some watch auction guy from Palm Beach or something. I don't know, some dude. His thing there. He's got a Patek. He's got one of these ellipse, kind of an interesting ellipse model. And I pick it up. He's got some like Arabic on the dial. So like I don't know, is this like one of these, the King Fahd or whatever? I don't know. So I said, what is it? I said, what is this? It's interesting. All the dictators love Patek. You got what's his name? Saddam Hussein from Iraq. Big fan of the Patek ellipse. Gaddafi. A couple of other guys. But this watch, I asked, who's this? Whose watch? Or, what is this writing here? He says, oh, this is Assad. I said, Assad? He says, yeah, the guy from Syria. Now, in case you don't know, Assad, this is the father of Hafez. I think Hafez is a Hafez. I can't keep track of these Assads. But this guy was the former ruler of Syria, whatever. I mean, the son is a scumbag and a murderer, right? I mean, he's killed 800,000 of his own people. His father, even worse. His father, I mean, these guys are complete butchers. I find it hilarious that you have all these protesters. All of a sudden, they're so concerned about these poor civilians in Gaza. These poor civilians. Oh my God. 20,000 women, children. The people don't tell you that half of those are actually terrorists, combatants that were killed. Okay, in this fighting. Now, the Israelis are not butchers. They're not there to kill these civilians, no matter how much the press tells you. But how come all these protesters? How come you never heard them protesting about Syria? 800,000 people killed, chemical weapons used. This is just a couple of years back. This is when Bathhouse Barry was president, right? He had the red line. Syria, does anybody remember? No, people forgot. What about ISIS? No, people forgot about that. How about Chechnya? Should we go through the whole list of all these Muslim countries where, Muslims are killing fellow Muslims? And just butchering, civilians, babies. And that's part, by the way, that's a feature. That's part of the feature of how these guys operate. It's not like it's not a accident. When the Israelis drop a bomb on a building, they're not trying to kill civilians. They're trying to destroy some terrorist infrastructure, and hopefully these terrorists. And if civilians are there and they're being used as human shields, you know what? That's what happens. That's warfare. What happened with Dresden? What happened with I don't know. Naples. Does anybody know about Naples? Naples, Italy. That's right. The Americans bombed Naples. I think 30,000. They killed 30,000 civilians. I mean, they're trying to bomb, I guess, military infrastructure in World War II. But sure enough, if you go to Sicily, you go to Palermo. I mean, I was there. I don't know. Last time I was there was 10 years ago. That place, half that city still looks like a war zone. Buildings were never rebuilt. That's what happens, in war. So anyway, so this guy had the Assad watch, and he was asking $30,000. Now imagine this. And this guy was like really proud of himself. Now, I kind of get it, but it's kind of like, look, there's guys who would wear, Hitler's watch. Now, it has historical value. Although I think I'd rather wear Hitler's watch than Assad's watch. I mean, it's kind of more interesting, If you're gonna go that way, why not get the guy who's, the guy who's at the top of the list for, mass murder, etc., etc. But yeah, this guy. So imagine some guy's paying 30 grand for a watch by Assad, and he's like a third rate. I mean, this is like a third rate guy. He's not even a Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was actually, he was an interesting guy. I mean, he was an interesting guy. Gaddafi was an interesting guy. I mean, these were colorful characters. They were colorful characters. So I see the value, but paying 30 grand, which is basically you're paying a 20 grand premium to be associated with a mass murderer like Assad. I don't think that's a smart move, but maybe if you're Syrian, whatever, you're part of that. Was it Alwalite, whatever his tribal group is, he's your homie. But let me not digress about historical stuff. So look, historical value is very important. Now, the Turnograph it meets all the definitions of that historical watch. Now, why hasn't it caught on? I'll tell you why. My friends. You know why? Because Jay-Z has not worn it yet. John Mayer, the guitar guy, that tomato can with tattoos, he hasn't worn this watch yet. Well, as soon as one of these tomato cans, one of these crayon eaters, gets spotted wearing one of these watches, it's going to get hot. Now, I believe it's going to take a little while. I think it might happen in a couple of years. Just like all of a sudden, Cartier, look at all these Muppet Boiler Room channels. They were telling you, oh, Cartier, it's a shitter, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's a jewelry company. It's not serious. All of a sudden, look at, Archie Luxury. Actually, Archie Luxury is not really considered a serious guy, but still, he's people, he's entertaining. He actually has a legitimate point of view, which is, I think, quite legitimate actually. And all these tomato cans were saying Cartier is garbage, and sure enough, Cartier today is super red hot. We got the sphere over there. Some sort of construction happening here. Who knows what's going on here. So bottom line is, just like Cartier, was dead, up until a year ago, all of a sudden it's the hottest thing. Oh my God. Why? Because, I don't know, Jay-Z wore a Cartier, was it a Crash, which is, it's a funky watch. It's, whatever. It's a funky, it's not, I don't think it's anything exciting. It's like kind of a funky watch. Is it a woman's? It's kind of a woman's watch. I don't think it's a men's watch. It's, it's a type of thing that only Italian collectors might have worn, like John Goldberger. That's the only people who'd wear that up until recently. Everybody was kind of laughing. But no, there you go. So I believe this is going to have that same type of trajectory. Mark my words, my friends. Look at the beauty of this. Now, if you're shopping for one of these, make sure that the bezel is crisp. Those little coin edge lines, or whatever you want to call it, those need to be crisp. These things are going for, I think now, about $4,000, roughly $4,500 or so. I think I paid like $3,500 for this a couple of years ago. Great watch. I mean, I don't know, where else can you get that type of value? I don't know. So I think it's a fine investment, and this is one of these things that I think is gonna do well. Look, all we need, my friends, the catalyst, okay? Because any type of investment, right? Any type of thing, right, which you expect to increase, the idea is you want to get it on the ground floor, right? But there's got to be a catalyst, something that lights the match, that sets the rocket into space. And the catalyst for this, I believe, has to be one of these influencer tomato cans, like a John Mayer or I don't know, Jay-Z, one of these type of dudes, to wear one, and boom, that's it. It's game over. It's game over. Maybe if Rick Ross wears one, the thing will take off. Who knows? But look, the bottom line is you guys hopefully understand what I'm talking about. Leave your vicious and nasty comments below. This is the #1 channel on the internet for, serious watch content. That's right, the #1 channel, the #1 organic channel. Unlike some of these guys who buy their clicks. Even the tomato can in Miami. That's right. The Carlito Brigante. I think his channel is Fugazi. He's buying probably clicks from India or something. He's probably buying it from those 2 Indian brothers who sell the RMs. I think him and Kino. I think Kino was buying those clicks for the guy, and it's very questionable. Very questionable. Anyway, guys, leave your nasty comments below, and if you want a watch reviewed by the Colonel, that's right, a free for the time being free watch review, send your email to brutalwatchreviews@gmail.com. brutalwatchreviews@gmail.com.